Hello, it's a Land of Confusion podcast, Ricochet, the show where we interview members by members. And I'm Dave March, and this is my co-host Don.
I'm Don Tillman in Palo Alto. All he said is true. We bring Ricochet members onto the show and just get to meet them and talk to them and find out. Well, where are you and what's your view from there is one of my favorite questions. But yeah, and who do we have on today?
Today we have Chris HUTCHISON, who definitely has a different view of a different place to be and a different view on things, as told by the photo behind me.
All right.
Yes. But before we jump into it, so let me thank you for asking me. I mean, I'm not one of the power posters.
Noisier people.
So I think it's really I was flattered whenever you asked if I would be on, because I do, even though I don't get the opportunity to post a lot, I am reading. There's a few different people that I follow more than others that I really enjoy, and I don't read every single day, but I'm a regular reader and I enjoy it. And I wish I could actually meet more people. I'm one of those guys who, even though I do the internet and the social media thing, I actually don't like it at all. And the only people I've gotten to meet from Ricochet has been Susan Quinn and the other Diane and their husbands. When I was home last year, actually on a business trip, but it was where my parents are in Tampa. They live in the area, so we got to meet, and that's been my one meetup. Yep. And I loved it. It was really fantastic. So what you guys do, I think is really, really great for me to get to see some of these people that I'm reading words and put a face to them.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Glad we could help.
Yeah, exactly.
In our own weird little way.
Yeah. Well, this is the kind of the strength here. We originally we were going around asking people who they want to see, and then I couldn't get all those people to come on. And then Don had the great idea. He said, "Why don't we go through the members? They're the people of the group, and you're one of the people of the group." So it's sort of like we're just going through and seeing who wants to come on.
See, I'm a genius.
Right.
Very deep and. Like I said, I mean, one of the reasons I actually do follow the group is because I'm not in the U.S., which means that I'm going to have less opportunities for these meetups and things like that. So, I enjoy it. Thank you.
Okay,
where in Poland are you?
In Warsaw, the capital. Yeah. So, a little bit different than most of Poland. It's a very international city. To live here is not very different than living in the U.S. Or at least living in the U.S. 25 years ago. I've been here for 17 years, and when I go home, I feel it's a little bit different. I think Poland is a great place for a conservative. So I think many Ricochet people would love it here. We go through a lot of the same issues. As far as how things are changing in society and liberalism and things like that. But I will say we are behind the U.S. on some things, so it's still quite conservative, and I love it. Even as far as living in a city, which I'm not a city person, but Warsaw is great. It's a city, but it's quite, for what we would consider a city, it's quite slow. So yeah, I like it. I think it's great.
And also, President Trump came by there a few years ago and did that wonderful, amazing speech.
Yeah, he's loved here. He's very loved here. I was at the speech.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Tell us. Oh, love to hear how that went.
Yeah, it was a great speech, number one. And I can say that, you have your people who are going to be, like I said, more on the left side politically, that are going to have the same criticisms of Trump as many of our liberals and our never Trumpers do. But overall, I will say Poland is probably the European country he's most popular in. Not the only, but I would say probably the most. He's quite liked here, and it showed at that speech. There was people from different age groups, different classes, and there was genuine happiness when he came, and the speech was well received.
That's fantastic. That's great to hear.
Yeah, so just getting a little bit into politics, Poland, like I keep hearing from people saying it's this great, terrible, fascist they're destroying all your freedoms, destroying all your courts, all this stuff. Like
threat. No, none of it's true. Not true at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there are things going on. That whole narrative came up shortly after the current government, which is called PIS, Law and Order, came into power in 2015, and immediately that narrative came because there were some constitutional court reforms. The funny thing is, and like I said, Poland goes through its own, its own issues. So I will tell you, there's no real left side here. The main opposition party is also a center-right party.
Yeah.
So that's one thing to remember. As a matter of fact, actually, the current government, which I do find to be more conservative in both the European and the American sense of the word, economically, I would say they're kind of on the left. But it's hard whenever you're looking at Europe to make direct comparisons to the U.S. The center of gravity is going to be more left. I hear all the time that American conservatism and European conservatism is so different. I don't really see that too much. I do see quite a lot of similarities, but like I said, there is no doubt that the center of gravity here is further left. So what's considered the right side party that's in power, many of their policies are going to be kind of welfare program, welfare state-ish kind of things. So I can't say that I am a PIS supporter exactly. I have found myself defending them a lot since they've been in power because I think they go through the same media issues that Trump has gone through, unfair portrayal, and I hate that. I really hate when I'm having many of my American friends say, what's going on in Poland? We hear all this stuff, or I watch TV shows. I watch the show Homeland, and the president on Homeland has to throw in Poland with Hungary, and Venezuela and Philippines. And I'm like, no, not even close.
Yeah.
But that's the portrayal that's happening.
Just a Hollywood writer.
Yeah.
But it's happening a lot. And like I said, I have my friends and family asking me, and I'm like, no, that's not the case. So with this constitutional court stuff, what a lot of Polish people forget, because people's minds are very short, was that 10, 12 years ago, everyone was calling for these reforms, including the party that's now saying it's a threat to democracy. They're calling for the reforms also. So yeah, people knew that it had to happen, but when they lost power, and remember, or actually I'm going to say remember, I'm making an assumption that you know this, but I don't know how much you follow European politics.
A little
bit. The European president was, up until recently, the Polish politician, Donald Tusk, who was the party leader for the opposition party.
Oh, okay. I thought Tusk was a German. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
really
no.
pay attention to the British stuff. So.
Yeah. No. So our opposition guy was one of the main people within the European Union. The party that was in that has had the majority within the European Parliament has been dominated by PO, which is the opposition party here. So, of course, Brussels is going to be having in their ear all the negative things about this party here. But it's highly exaggerated, When they show the Independence Day marches, which I am at every year, I mean, there's like a group of like 30 Nazi type kind of people, and they're very much off to the side. There's no state sponsorship of them, but yet if I look on BBC or something, that's what they're showing. So yeah, very, very unfair. Poland's a great place. Don't listen to the media if you don't.
Okay. Well, why don't we start back at the beginning a little bit now that we've covered Polish politics? Why don't we talk about you and how you ended up getting there? Like, where did you grow up in the States? Because you're obviously not.
You got lost.
It's kind of something like that. No.
You know, guys never ask for directions. So.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm originally from Louisiana, from South Louisiana, New Iberia, which is near Lafayette. So the Cajun part. We kind of consider everyone above north of I-10's a Yankee. So
is this part close to the Duck Dynasty people? The Robertsons?
Yeah, I don't actually know exactly where they are, but that is very much where I'm from. Yeah.
Okay.
Love this.
Been to New Orleans twice. That's about it.
Yeah. But no, great culture. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with it. Like I said, great culture, great people for the most part, but I think it's a real interesting place because you've had for a few decades, the oil and gas industry has been the dominant industry by far. I mean, well over half of the men there work in the oil and gas industry in some way, well over. So many of them have these schedules where they'll work 7 days on, 7 days off, or 14 days on, 14 days off. Not a whole lot of education, but a lot of money and a lot of time off. And that very often breeds drinking and other other things like that. So quite a lot of alcoholism. When we moved, it was actually to get away from that kind of stuff. My mom wanted to be away from that. She had dealt with a lot of things with my dad. So yeah, we moved to Pennsylvania when I was 10, and completely different life, both in the area and the culture, but also my lifestyle. Had a great stepdad. So it was like two completely different childhoods. I got to experience some amazing things that as a child, I was able to compare things. So so I'm fortunate with my childhood, I think.
What part of Pennsylvania?
The Allentown area, Lehigh
Oh,
Valley.
okay. Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Billy Joel song.
Yep.
Exactly. Yes. And I remember us driving there and playing that song. So it was.
Yeah. I've spent a fair bit of time driving through Pennsylvania, and it's always it's always like the land to me. It's like the land of endless trees. Like going through, you start in New York and you're just driving through the Erie part to get to Ohio. It's like New York's kind of flat. There's some trees, but it's mostly flat plains like Ontario. Then you get to Pennsylvania and it's nothing but trees. And then you get to the Ohio border and it's farmland again. It's like, this is surreal.
Yeah. But like I said, as a child growing up, I think it was great experiencing two different lives like that. It's influenced me in so many ways. Then I joined the Army right out of high school. I was stationed in Texas, in Georgia, in California. So again, I got to live in a few different places and see some different things. And after I got out, I went back to Louisiana for a while, worked in the oil and gas industry myself. And so you asked how I got to Poland? Honest answer, kind of like early midlife crisis kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I had been divorced by this time. I was 29 when I came to Poland, but some thoughts started taking place a couple years earlier. So, throughout my mid to late 20s, I had a very good job in Louisiana. I had been a laborer on the rigs, but had gotten myself into a management position. So I'm, making decent money, a job that I did enjoy, but I had been divorced while I was in the military, which was actually one of the reasons why I got out of the military, because I thought it was going to be a career. I had kind of a personal crisis. Like I said, thankfully my work ethic was enough that I didn't completely self-destruct, but my personal life, I wasn't very happy. I ended up meeting a bunch of Eastern Europeans who were working for the summer. I got to see them interact with each other, and it was interesting because none of them liked each other. The Lithuanians, the Poles, the Ukrainians, none of them liked each other. And of course, none of them liked the Russians. So
Can't imagine why.
Yeah. So in spending this summer with them, I started reading a lot, first Russian history, but I got sucked into the Polish history. Just because, how can you not be sympathetic to them and what had happened? So at some point I said, hey, look, I'm sorry, I'm going to give away all my furniture and I'm just going to go to Poland. I don't know what I'm going to do, how I'm going to exactly live, if I'm going to stay there, but I'm going to go there for a little while, for a certain amount of time, and I'm just gonna see what it's like and teach English, which at the time was something anyone, any native speaker could do. I actually, I thought it was going to be a career though, because I actually took it seriously, unlike some other people who were just kind of traveling around. But things happen, and I met a woman. I ended up staying. I liked the teaching job, but the hours weren't very great because because I was going around other people's schedules. It was usually very early or very late, so it made for weird days. And one day I'm just walking past a construction site, and I'm like, hey, I've seen that done better in the U.S. And I ended up starting a construction company. I had no background at all.
That's great.
Yeah.
Right.
But I was a pretty persistent guy, and I did it. I created a successful company here. I brought some technology that at the time was unheard of and not very wanted. And now it's a completely accepted technique. But my, as I said, I didn't really, I made a mistake getting out of the Army. I loved being in the Army. I was in the Rangers, so I was in a unit that was very, very proud. It wasn't a regular thing. It was one of the special operations units. Later on, I went and I was taught Chinese by the Army, went into intelligence, and I thought it was going to be a career. I loved it. I felt it was an important thing I was doing, and I had meaning, but my divorce kind of messed me up a bit. And for a long time, I didn't stay connected with my Ranger brothers because I was kind of embarrassed of getting out. The war on terror, started to happen a couple years later. And there was guilt. There was feelings of guilt. Many of my close friends were part of it, and I felt like, what am I doing to serve my country?
Right.
And I started to work with a lot of the guys transitioning, because I did have some entrepreneurial experience now, some business things that I could. That was my way. I thought I could serve was to help these guys who were getting out. One thing led to another. Next thing I know, I'm introducing Polish special operations to U.S. guys who are now working for companies. They've gotten out and they're working for different companies. Poland is not an easy market to enter because it takes a long time to build up that trust. So yeah, I became a guy, that was a bridge between Americans and Polish government. Yeah, so yeah, God has blessed me way more than I deserve. I have a wonderful family, great kids, 4 little ones, and I have an adult one who's still in the U.S. From my first marriage. But yeah, I have a job that I get to be part of national security for 2 countries. My new one, and I get to meet. I have a meeting with the Prime Minister next week.
Oh wow!
I get to meet ministers. Yeah. I'm living a dream. I'm living a dream.
Do you still have the construction company?
I actually do have it. I don't do a whole lot with it. I used to sell the machinery that we used and use the machinery to do contracting. I don't do the contracting anymore. I sold that part of the business to my Polish partner. So the company's still going. I'm just not part of it. I do have the company that can still sell things, but I don't do a whole lot with it, to be quite honest. If something falls on my lap, then I will do it, but I don't put a whole lot of time or effort into it.
So I'm always the technologically curious one. So what was the technology advance that you brought?
Yeah, pour in place curbing. So the machines that will put curbs and curb and gutter. They were doing it 100% with prefab blocks, very time consuming. And so, yeah, I'm like, I've seen machines that can do that. Yeah, like I said, it wasn't easily accepted. I thought it was going to be a piece of cake. All I got to do is show them how this saves time and money because of labor. But at the time, wages were still very, very low here, and they would tell me, "Hey, Chris, great product, love it. Maybe one day, but guys are cheap, and we want them to work." Which is why I started doing the work myself. It was actually for marketing.
It's interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, my family comes from Poland, or at least my father's side of the family does. I've done a little bit of, you've mentioned you're a bit of a historian in your write-up to us. I did an article once on the Russo-Polish War, and I've done I wrote a game an article about it that at one time was like the far-off future, and now at the end of this year, it will be an alternate history. It was a game about Russia invading Poland in 2020.
Oh, wow. I'll tell you, if you ever get the opportunity to come again, let me know. We'll go to some places. I mean,
cool.
Unfortunately, I don't know. I was lucky when I came. There were a lot of things going on where they were starting to be proud of their history, which they weren't for a while. And I had the opportunity to talk to many direct people who were part of the Warsaw Rising and different things like that, and just amazingly humbling.
Right. Yeah, no, I do intend to go, and hopefully I would have gone this year, but then something happened that prevents anyone from going anywhere. I'm actually kind of curious how that's been going on in Poland.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good question.
Pretty bad recently. I think we went through some similar shutdown kind of situations. I think from talking with friends and my parents, probably around the same time, mid-March. So there were a couple of months of pretty strict lockdown kind of stuff. But then in June, it opened back up. You still had to wear a mask if you went inside a place or something like that. It wasn't extremely problematic or anything. But the past few weeks, the number of cases have been going up a lot. I will say that I am no expert on any of that topic. As a matter of fact, I have joked, but I'm half being serious, that I actually know less today than I did back in March. I mean, and that's after reading, I don't know, a good 200 articles and a few reports, a lot of articles based on off of reports. And I can say I know less now than I did then. I'm so confused. I don't know what's good. I don't know what's bad. I don't know what's right. I don't know what's wrong. All I know is I only know 2 people who have tested positive. They didn't get all that sick. And it seems like we're really doing a lot to the economy, and not just to the economy, to some people. I'm lucky. I have a family. I have a great family. I have a wife who, even though she's not interested in government or politics or many of the things that I am, she'll sit down and talk to me for hours. I'm lucky.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine how these how some people who are, single or, extroverts, I don't know how they make it.
Mm-hmm.
Really. It's
Copious amounts of alcohol.
yeah. I mean, I hope one day that they can look at, that they'll be able to find the number of deaths that come from alcohol, drug overdoses, suicide. I mean, I don't know how that will be done.
They're calling it life hours. They've had one guy on, Peter Robinson had a guy on who's talking about it. He was one of Trump's advisors. And he's like, we've already surpassed any amount of life hours saved by 10 times as much by now.
Yeah.
Like, people are going to die in, like, it's really depressing stuff. It's just, and it just, looking at it as a historian, it's just one of these weird periods of collective madness amongst humanity. I don't think there's some sort of giant reset conspiracy. I just think they don't know any better. And like communism, they're just doubling down on stupidity because they just don't know any better.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Chris, do you think the fact that you feel like you know less than you did before, is that maybe due to the media there, or to the political, like the rules and regulations there? Or, I mean, here, for instance, I think there's the politics is just taken over. Having the ability to turn off businesses is a very powerful political tool, and we have politicians who will wield that, and we have media that will support that sort of thing. As an example, schools being closed because children are the least sensitive to it and have the lowest mortality rate of any, and you have to close the schools. Jesus. Yeah, really. It comes to the life hours you mentioned. So here I'm thoroughly convinced that the politicians are just enjoying the power. But how about over there?
I would say it's probably the same. I mean, like I said, I'm quite supportive of our government. So, I don't think it's like them sitting there, all right, we can do this. And I think that our government has tried to be quite open and not to restrict too much. Unfortunately, whenever you see cases going up thousands and thousands more per day in a country that's 40 million people, so quite a bit smaller than the U.S. I don't know what daily cases are in Canada.
Cases have spiked, but just like everywhere else on the planet, no one's dying anymore. It did go up. It may have, we were at 2 a day for a little while, then it went to 4, and then it went to 20. I think that's the highest it's been. And it's there's one day when we had 91 dead, and I'm like, that was just, I looked at that. It only made sense that they just logged a whole bunch of dead people on that day. It was 91 and then back down to 2 again. It was like, oh, you guys are.
Yeah, and then there's that weekend thing. Sometimes you see the charts, the weekend.
And it was the end of the month.
Yeah.
Suddenly on the end of the month, at the end of the month, we had this spike. It was like.
So I think that our politicians kind of feel pressured. especially when they have some other things that are going on politically. Like I said, the constitutional court reform, abortion has been a big thing here the past few weeks, like really, really big. We actually banned abortions completely here a few weeks ago, which has really gotten a lot of protesters out. Which is crazy. These are the same people that complain, but they'll go out in the protest. But yeah, so Don, you asked the question, why do I think that? And I guess it's because I just see things like okay, a couple weeks ago, my kids got one of the teachers, we were told, tested positive. From what I understand, the symptoms weren't really all that much, but okay, she tested positive. So they call us and they say that it's a good idea for the kids to self-quarantine. So they were home. They were home that week, and for a day we weren't really doing anything, and we're kind of like, well, what do we do? Because if they really care about this being effective, then we should also, I would think, be quarantined. But they're like, well, if the office is called Centipede here, which is the main office that deals with all this, that tracks it. We never got a call from them. So basically, our kids stay home, but everything else can be normal. So it's like you start asking questions. What's the sense in it then? Why stay home? And then 2 weeks later, when the schools actually close, my twins' school is closed, but my youngest daughter, who's 6, her school's open. So again, you're kind of I'm just left asking myself, I don't believe everything in life is completely rational and logical, and reason is, the end all be all. Yeah. But, I try to think about things a little logically, and I'm like, I don't understand it. I don't get it. You want us to do this, but then there's this. Why? I'm not getting any answers on that.
No one's getting any answers, unfortunately, in most of these places.
Like the news item just like yesterday or the day before, California's Governor Newsom was caught at a high-end ultra deluxe restaurant with a large group of people. None of them had masks, in a small room, and this is after he had some draconian regulations about people not being allowed outdoors without masks and such. It's just crazy. Political power explains a lot. Just that kind of, the political version of greed. We talk about, all those capitalists are greedy. Nah, it's the politicians that are greedy, because the money in politics is like orders of magnitude more than the money in corporations.
Yeah.
What is it? I was just looking at Canada. We had 100 people die in a day, so we are getting it pretty bad here. And then I looked at Sweden. They're back down to 4. They have cases spiking all over the place. They just took all the deaths right at the start, and it didn't hurt their economy.
Yeah. So again, that's why, Don. That's why I say that, because I'm seeing all these different countries have different responses, and basically, I'm a Republican, so I am skeptical of government, but I'm not a libertarian. I get quite annoyed with the libertarians. So I'm not a hater of government either. And I look at these guys and I feel for them. I feel for them that I don't think anyone knows what to do, what's the right thing. I don't even want to get into WHO or anything like that, but
they're against the lockdowns.
Are they?
Yeah, they've come out. They came out like a month ago. They're
Okay,
like,
that's okay.
the first lockdown was okay. They say the
Okay.
first lockdown's okay because you had to prep everyone for COVID and you had to do take all the steps and get your people trained up and just stockpile PPE because the Chinese had went and bought it all and then tried selling it back to us. Great people they were. So they said the first month was okay, but no more. Do not do any more. You just need to, unless it's a last resort, do not do it. Unless you're facing another Italy, don't do it. And then the governments have been doing it anyway because World War I had something called the shell shortage, especially on the Eastern Front. And the generals kept calling up, and that's confirmed. They were running out of bullets rather quickly. That's why they couldn't finish off Austria, which the Russians nearly did. Like the first in 1914, the Russians demolished Austrian's army. Like they lose 400,000 dead. Crazy. But they started demanding more shells because they're running out. And then they started using it as a crutch, that they needed more shells because they couldn't get through on their last breakthrough. And they kept doing the same thing over and over again, except for Brusilov. Everyone keeps doing the same thing and they demand more shells until the point when the Russian government is producing too many shells and stop diverting the trains from the countryside carrying food to the cities. And it sparks the revolution. I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but I just see all the testing and all the lockdowns and all these other things as just another shell shortage. Governments get fixated on the wrong thing and they continue to pump through it, even though until someone says, hey, maybe we should do something else. There's these Great Barrington Declaration guys. There's all sorts of other people coming around and telling you do something. So I think
it's a really good point. I think that's a really good point. The government being misdirected.
Right.
And I think and we do know a lot, really. I mean, we know that hand sanitizer kills it. We know that soap and water kills it. We know ultraviolet light kills it. We now know that mouthwash kills it in the mouth. We know that some combination of vitamin D, zinc, and aspirin keeps you mostly immune from it. I mean, it's just all these things that cost nothing do a pretty good job of protecting you. And we know also that, hand body contact is the way it spreads. And we know that's easy to deal with. And we know
once you get it once, you tend not to get it again.
Yeah. And we know and we know
how many, I just want to interrupt for a second.
Yeah.
There have been 55 million people tested positive for coronavirus. How many do you think have been reinfected?
I wouldn't know. Perhaps a small number?
A very small number. 4.
Wow.
Now, it might be like a seasonal flu and you'll just keep getting it. And that's what I think it will be. So maybe you get like a year's immunity after you have it. But
I think one of the frustrating things with me is I'm not hearing anyone either here or the US or really anywhere care to let the public know what is it that we want to achieve before we get back to normalcy. I think back to when I was a ranger and we would go on these, long road marches, 75 pounds on your back, 25, 30 miles walking all night. And what I can say is I remember the hardest ones were not necessarily the longest ones. They were the ones where you didn't know where you were going to end. Your mind does something to you. If you have some goal, if you have something, if someone is just letting you know what's going on and where we need to get to, right now, you know, I mentioned in my letters to Dave, kind of giving my bio, we have a 1-month-old. My parents were supposed to come this summer and spend time with us. Our apartment is just big enough where it could have fit all of us without our newborn. So, you know, we were going to be staying here. They were going to spend the whole summer. My mom and my wife are very close. They were going to do a lot of baby shopping things, and all that went out the window. So, you know, am I suffering like some people? No. So I'm not going to complain. You know, I'm not losing jobs. I'm not, you know, like I said, one of these people that is alone or whatever. I'm okay. But there's some disruption in life that's taken place.
Yep.
I don't know when my parents are going to be able to come now and you know, see their new grandchild. I don't know when I'm going to get to go to a business meeting that's face to face. I'm glad to be talking with you, but I'm so tired of these Zoom meetings. I'm so sick and tired of these Zoom meetings. It's a disruption.
I think the vaccine, and it looks like we're getting one, and I think that's going to be their thing. We had one of our provincial governments actually says we will go to normal when we have a vaccine. That was their thing. I was like, holy, and this was in the summertime, and I'm like, holy crap, guys, we could be at this for years. Look, lucky, and it seems to be around the corner. And that seems to be what all the chief medical, like, when I asked about the Great Declarations, like, why we need to do this when we have a vaccine just around the corner. So I think that will be the government, whether or not it's very effective or not, they're going to have people use the vaccine, and then they're going to say, we're out of here. I think that they'll use that as a way to just break people out of the cycle, because I think we are in this feedback loop with the bad, where the people are scared and the governments are reacting to scared people, and they're just cycling off each other. And I think this vaccine will be their exit hatch and say, okay, and then everyone will forget about this, and we'll be like the Spanish flu pandemic. No one ever talks about this.
I'm going to be skeptical. I think they'll find something else. They'll have to wait till every person can be vaccinated or something like that. I think this could go on.
Well, it might happen in your country. I think some of the other countries are just going to take the shot,
so to speak.
Well.
And the other thing is we can see situations where the worst case possible infections are, like a crowded subway car, for instance. We see that. We understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we can sanitize the hell out of that thing. You know, it would do a lot of good.
Yeah.
So there's some places where it's obviously we can target.
Yeah. So have you ever heard, Chris? Have you ever heard of the Polish genie joke?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so the Polish farmer's in his field one day, and he finds this magical lamp in his field, and he takes it up and he rubs it, and the genie comes out and he says, I can grant you anything you want, you desire, but you can only have 3 wishes. And he's sort of like, Polish farmer thinks to himself, since like, I'd like for the Mongols to invade Poland. And the genie's like, are you sure? And the Mongols come in, they kill and they destroy and plunder the place, and then they run back and they leave back through Russia. And the genie's like, okay, so what's your second wish? He's like, I'd like for the Mongols to invade Poland again. And they come in, the Mongols do what they do, and then they run back to Russia. And it's like, the genie's like, okay, so what's your third wish? And he's like, I want the Mongols to invade Poland again. And he's like, I gotta ask, why do you keep asking for the Mongols to invade Poland? And the farmer's like, because they have to invade Russia twice.
Yeah. That kind of sums up the Polish attitude of Russia. They'll cut their nose to spite their face when it comes to hurting Russia.
I just thought we should get away from and make a joke about to avoid what we were just talking about. I guess another question is, how did you find Ricochet being often far off Poland?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I listened to a bunch of conservative podcast. I was really into Jonah Goldberg for a long time. I hope one day he'll come back to his senses.
Right.
There's only a few that they're kind of irredeemable for me, and I'm hoping that he'll come back. I used to like him a lot.
Same here.
And I heard Rob on the Remnant. So he was talking about that. I was already, as time was going, I was getting more and more annoyed with what Jonah was saying. I was, there was the Weekly Standard podcast. Who was the guy that was running that?
Remember?
Oh, you mean Bill there? Bill Crystal?
No. The one who was doing the podcast. Charlie
Cook?
No, not Charlie Cook. Who I like a lot.
Yeah.
He's actually, I said I don't like libertarians, and he's kind of hard on Trump sometimes, but I like Charlie Cook a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, there were a few people that I was just getting really annoyed with, and when Rob came on and mentioned Ricochet, I'm like, look, I don't want to live in an echo chamber, but I need to be around people who, I live in Europe, for Pete's sake. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not going to get caught in an echo chamber. Trust me.
Oh yeah, there's another question there. Getting back from one of our members, Aaron Miller was going on. He asked, "What is the state of the free speech in Europe? Is it anywhere like what we're dealing with in Canada and the United States, or is it people will just say what the hell they want whenever they want?"
Yeah, no, I find it to be quite. I think things are quite similar. I mean, I would find so Poland. I know people say it's Eastern Europe, and then others will, give it the Central Eastern Europe. Poland does not want to be associated with the East. Poland is a Western country, and they're very strong about that. So I find Poland and anyone else I come in contact with, which I come in contact with, just through my church, I'm coming in contact with people from 30 countries, so a lot of people all over the place. And I would say that Western Europe is fairly similar to the US and what I imagine Canada is. I don't see many differences. I mean, I can see more differences between some states in the US than I would see between Poland and the US.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So I've been watching a little bit of Polish TV thanks to my Netflix subscription. I'm kind of curious, is it true that the Polish Vietnamese community is really well integrated?
Wow, you studied for this one.
Yeah.
Integrated. I mean, I would say as much or more as I remember, growing up in Louisiana in the 70s and 80s, we had a lot of Vietnamese in those first couple waves that came, and I thought they kind of stayed to themselves, that they had their little communities, and I think it's similar here. They kind of hang out with who they feel comfortable with. But there's they have no issues. I mean, no one has any issues with them. They have a lot of Asian places where, that's kind of our big fast food here. So, there's definitely no animosity towards them or anything like that.
You hear like that in the other countries in that area. That they have a hard time, like Hungary, of course, is probably. But then I've been looking at the history of Hungary, and it's like these people don't like anyone who's not Hungarian.
Yeah. Hungary's a bit different.
Yeah, like we talk about the Indian reservation schools here, and that's what the Hungarians were doing to all their ethnic minorities in their country. But
what I can say is it's been interesting is that I've seen more social change in a society in my 17 years here, and probably the last 12 years than I saw in my 29 years before moving here. Man, as a society, they have just changed completely. They're much more open now. You can see it in how they dress, how they interact in driving. It used to be a common thing 12 years ago to be coming home from work and you would just hear horns all over the place at intersections because, even simple things as far as, merging, it was a big deal. They were intensely individualistic and untrusting, and it's a very different place now. It's been for anyone who likes behavioral sciences and sociology and all that, it's been really interesting to see.
Interesting. Fascinating.
Yeah. No, I've watched some, like there's a show called Ultraviolet on Netflix, and it's about it's a Polish show. I don't know what's called in Poland, but it's about these people who are on the internet who solve crimes together, and they run circles around the cops.
Yeah, I actually just heard about that show within the past 2 weeks. I want to check that out.
Yeah,
I want to check it out.
Yeah,
I never heard about it before, but I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm kind of, I'm behind the times. I'm one of these people that, there was like a show that was popular in like 2010, and I'm just now getting to watch it. So I'm behind on things.
Another one, they had one season of it here. I don't know if the virus stopped production or they just haven't brought the production over, but I think it's called 1985. And it's a show about how a series of terrorist bombings in the 80s prevent the Poland from falling, and the Soviet Union never falls. And then it flashes back between like or 1983. So it starts in like you keep doing flashbacks to the 80s, and then you go to modern times where Al Gore is president of the United States and is about to invade Iraq. So they kind of toss back and forth. It's a real alternate history show. There's one scene where this guy is a Polish police detective, and he used to be an elite officer. Now he's working slumming it out, and they raid a resistance house, and the resistance is making copies of Harry Potter and sending it off to people, and his assistant's like looking through some of the materials, like he picks up a copy of 1984, and his supervisor's like, "Oh, you should read that." And he's like, "This is forbidden, this is contraband." He's like, no, just tell anyone who asks that you're doing research on the resistance and you read that. And then 2 episodes later he comes back and he's like, "Are you sure this book's fiction?"
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna have to check that one out too.
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
Yeah, really great talking to you. I'll be honest. The whole COVID thing, I was not expecting to really talk about all that much. It's not something that I really usually like to talk about, but great. I really, again, appreciate inviting me and and what you do, because it's really nice to put the face to all the posts.
Yeah, I kind of started this one off just like at the beginning when I just wanted to get involved in
Crazy idea.
Yeah, and then it's like it's been, I think, a great help for a lot of people this is the only way they can do meetups anymore.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it. We're going to sign off now, and I'll try and get this thing up for tonight.
Excellent.
all right.
Okay.
Take
Thank
care,
you
all.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.